and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Hello, everybody, and War Eagle. Welcome into another episode of Auburn Tigers Live from the Voice of College Football Network. I am your host, Taylor Jones, lead writer from the Auburn Wire from the USA Today College Wire Network. And with me for the second week in a row, good to see that the first show didn't kill you and you're back with us again, is Skye Underwood, of course, the mastermind behind Power of Dixieland all over social media. And we had a pretty good show last week. Reached out to you afterwards and said, hey, did you have fun? Do you want to do it again? You said absolutely. So we're back here for the second week in a row. And it is the 5th episode ever of Auburn Tigers Live. So it's guaranteed to be the best. I would definitely say so. But Skye, before we get into it, just want to say thank you again for being a part of the show. And how's your week, man? Has it been good so far?
Absolutely, man. Week's been great, and always enjoy chopping it up about Auburn athletics, especially the big three.
And we're definitely going to get into the big three this week. A lot of news surrounding all three of those sports: Auburn football, Auburn basketball, and Auburn baseball. And we apologize we didn't get the show on yesterday as expected, as a lot of people in Alabama got to experience over the weekend. A lot of rain on Saturday, and that washed out my son's t-ball game. And he's already had it's tough luck. It really is, because he only has 5 games. He's in the 3- and 4-year-old league, so they only play 5 games,
right?
2 innings. It's not a lot, but at the same time, he's only gotten to play 3 so far. So they were like, okay, well, we've got to find a way to get these other 2 in, because these poor kids haven't played in almost a month.
Right.
So instead of playing on Saturday mornings, we had to move the one of the games to Monday at 6:30, which was, pretty much right when the show was supposed to start. Then we'll have our final game on Thursday at 5:30. Yes. Gonna be a busy day. We got t-ball on Thursday. My day job, I'm an educator at a high school. We've got high school graduation on Thursday, so I've got to leave that game, go to the high school, which is in the next town, do graduation. But the good news is that summer vacation starts at approximately 8:30 on Thursday, so we should be a little bit more consistent on Auburn Tigers Live going forward.
And I bet it couldn't come at a better time for you as an educator. You're probably ready for a break.
Right. It's been getting these kids ready for final exams, and what can we do to pass, and what can we do to do better, as they can say, because you got some kids that are just like, hey, get me to a 70. And then there's some kids that are like, I'm at a 99, but I want 105. What can I do to get
Oh my God.
Yeah, last couple of weeks have been tough, but summer vacation starts at approximately 8:30 when the kids throw their hats in the air at graduation. So we're looking forward to that. But again, thank you again for joining us on a Tuesday. We should go back to normal on next week, starting on Monday. And then by that point, we'll have a clearer picture of where Auburn's going to be in the College World Series race. We're Tuesday night, and we're thinking, okay, well, Auburn's supposed to start on Wednesday in the SEC tournament. Going to have the final game of the day, which is already horrible if you know anything about Hoover, because it's not going to start on time. It's probably going to start maybe 2 or 3 hours after the fact. And then you've got to battle rain delays, and we're already battling that right now. Last time I checked, Florida was up on South Carolina. It was in the top of the 8th inning. Texas A&M and Mississippi State were supposed to play after that, but because there's supposed to be some rain coming into the Birmingham metro area, it's supposed to be packing some punches in there too, as we see in the month of May and into June. A lot of thunder, a lot of lightning coming in. They say we're going to go ahead and move the game to Wednesday. Didn't see what time it's supposed to start, but that already throws the calendar off because Auburn was supposed to play the winner of Texas A&M Mississippi State on Wednesday at approximately 8 p.m. So now I don't know if they're going to try to make the winner of that game play 2 games in the day. I don't know if they're going to have time to do that. I don't know, but it's already a mess. So we're going to talk Auburn baseball, of course, but we have all the information we thought we were going to use is completely out the window now.
Right.
Of the
as far as the schedule is concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, so Auburn baseball, unfortunately, did not get the series win at Ole Miss, but it really didn't affect them all that much. Things worked out in the SEC standings to where they got that 6th seed, which means they got the first round bye.
And they avoided getting swept, so they did get a win.
They did. The offense was still swinging the hot bat, but of course, playing at Swayze Field is brutal as it is. And if you can get out of there with a series win or even one win, then you're doing pretty well. But yeah, those last 2 games, the offense came to life. The 3rd game is when it really, went into where it really helped them out, having a pretty big offensive day. But it really didn't hurt them all that much. I think that's a good thing because the tiebreakers worked themselves out. Vanderbilt ended up getting a pretty decent draw. They were able to have a better SEC record than Ole Miss. So Ole Miss didn't get the first round bye. Auburn did.
Yeah.
Alabama and Tennessee below them, it really didn't matter because they had already won the season series against them. And probably the biggest thing to take away from this, and I know D1 baseball, it is a big authority when it comes to college baseball and the bracketology and all that, but Auburn actually moved up in the D1 field of 64. Last time we talked, Skye,
after the series loss to Ole Miss,
right. Yeah, which I didn't really look to see the movement of the teams that were in front of them, what happened. But they were number 7 the last time we talked. Now they're number 6. Pretty much the same 4 teams that were going to be in there. They had Duke projected as the number 2, Troy projected as the number 3, which in-state teams, they can Auburn can either blow them out or they're going to sneak up on them because you look at what Auburn did against Troy at the beginning of the year and what Auburn has done this year. But UAB also swept them this year. So in-state teams are a little scary.
Right. Who was that? Jacksonville that we hung 19 on recently?
Yeah, the Gamecocks.
Jacksonville State, yeah.
And then you look at what happened in Jacksonville a couple of weeks before that. Lucas Steele had to hit a go-ahead home run in the top of the 9th to get out of there with a win. I think it was a 3-2 game in Jacksonville, and then they come here, we run roll them in 7. So, in-state teams, you don't really know, what to expect from them. But I think in a tournament setting, you kind of like the Auburn Tigers in that way, with all due respect. I know Troy's got a pretty good team. Everybody else has a pretty good team. But, usually you try to work on some things in the midweek, try to, figure out who your pitchers are going to be. And then, tournament time shows up, and that's what you get. And then I think Long Island, the conference that they're in, they're expected to be an automatic qualifier, so they're expected to come to Auburn as well. And that was the projected standings from D1 baseball, and you're never going to guess, Skye, who Auburn would play, the region they're paired up with, Florida State. But the good news is Auburn wouldn't have to go to Tallahassee, which is unbelievable. It seems like any chance Auburn gets, they're going to go to Tallahassee in baseball. They've gone to Tallahassee a lot in softball too. Softball just closed out a stay in Tallahassee as well. But yeah, Auburn baseball even though they didn't get the weekend result that they wanted, still doing pretty well in the race for the SEC tournament championship and a pretty good seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, hopefully the weather the weather will do its thing and we can see some exciting baseball at Hoover. Auburn's best baseball, it feels like it's been played in the latter part of the year, Taylor. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, not that they were doing bad, but they really started showing out in the last 3 or 4 series. After that Texas series when it really came together.
Right. But prior to the Texas series, they swept LSU.
They did, yeah.
So, so I think that was probably the LSU was the turning point. Even though they lost, they got swept at Texas at Austin, where like Texas was ranked number one at the time. So, but the cool thing about that is it showed their bounce back, their ability to not let one series loss turn into another series loss, which I'm sure happens all the time.
Yeah, especially it's usually about happening at the right time because usually if they get a few really good series wins, they're like, oh, we've done what we need to do. They just kind of spiral out of control. But you look at the number of freshmen. This was like something I really didn't think about until I was looking at something else. I was writing an article for Auburn Wire yesterday. I was looking at the Alabama high school state championships and who won a state championship. Were there any Auburn commits that won one? There was one from Glenwood, and he did pretty well. He pitched in game 2, which clinched the series over at Gordo, and he played first base. I think in game 1 of the series, had 2 hits. And I was looking at, okay, well, Auburn. I think they're just on the outside of the top 25 in the power game rankings, or perfect game rankings, I should say, which is, you think 27, that's not a bad class, but they're also like 9th in the SEC. So the SEC is loaded. I think the first 7 teams in the power perfect game rankings are SEC teams. So if you're below that, that's not a bad thing. It really isn't. But I was looking back at last year in the signing class, I was like, oh, I kind of wonder like how many are really contributing this year. Christian Chatterton, who's really come together as a pitcher, true freshman. Bub Terrell, true freshman, playing third base, has really earned that role. Absolutely. Chris Rimmer, a member of the all SEC freshman team. He's won SEC Freshman of the Week a couple of times this year. True freshman. So, I mean, there's just so many true freshmen that are already contributing already. And when you have all those true freshmen and they're still doing what they're doing, the future is going to be bright. I mean, the only thing that's really stopping them is the MLB draft, but Auburn doesn't have to worry about that for a couple more years.
Yeah. Did Auburn hit on players that are exceeding their recruiting ranking, or is it because of development? Or, I mean, what's happening?
I'd say probably a little bit of both. I know it's very different with college because usually, you get to like college football, you have to play at least 3 years before the NFL can even think about looking at you.
Right.
And basketball, used to you could go straight to the NBA out of high school. Can't do that now.
Right.
But you can play 1 year, which is, something we're going to talk about a little later in the show with Tahad Pettiford, his situation. He's a true freshman. He could go to the NBA this year, but if he doesn't go, he's got to wait a couple more years. Though with baseball, chances are you're going to get drafted because there's a handful of different rounds. There's, 50, 60 rounds. And if you look at it and say, okay, here's where you're going to start out. Here's what your signing bonus is going to be. Do you think it's worth it to go pro, or do you think it's worth it to go to college? And if you go to college, and here's where the rules are kind of weird too. You can go Division I. So like Ike Irish, we'll take him for instance. Ike Irish, he signed with Auburn as a freshman. So he signed with Auburn, a Division I program. He has to play for 3 years. So he has to be freshman, sophomore, junior, and then he's eligible for the draft again. But if he goes to junior college, he only has to play 1 year. So it's really weird. So, do
a lot of super big time prospects take that route?
I don't know the exact number, but I know the one off the top of my head that's very famous for doing this. He played high school baseball in Nevada. He dropped out, got his GED so that he could go to junior college early. And now he's one of the biggest superstars in the MLB. Do you know who that is?
No.
Bryce Harper.
Wow.
He did that. He played 1 year junior college, got drafted in the first round, and now he's tearing it up for the Philadelphia Phillies. So he's incredible. He's the poster child for that method. Exactly, the exact number, not really sure about that, but that's like the main guy that comes to mind. It's like
I gotcha.
He was ready to get to the majors. He knew he could get to the majors. People are already talking about it, but hey, kid, you're too young. So he gets his GED, goes to junior college, and then gets drafted in the first round by the Washington Nationals. Just really crazy.
I'll tell you an interesting note about Bryce Harper is that not only is he a superstar on the diamond, but he's a superstar when it comes to social media. So I think he puts out a lot of videos and stuff.
I know there for a while, it may have been during COVID time. No, it wasn't COVID time. It was somewhere relatively, not all that far ago. Who's putting out all like kind of recipes, like things that he cooks and like different protein shakes he makes and all that. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, like Auburn baseball, they have a lot of teams that will go after him. I've got to pull up this. Another one I just remember, Lucas Steele. We talked about him earlier in the show too. He's a true freshman as well too. So we'll pull it up here from Perfect Game. This is from we'll say class of 2024.
Okay.
There was only one from the class that went last year, and that was Connor Gatwood. He got drafted in the 19th round by the LA Angels. So he was one of those that he signed with Auburn and then went on to the MLB. Another one that did that pretty recently was from the Baltimore Orioles, Gunnar Henderson from Alabama.
So superstar.
He signed with Auburn, but then he got that big money to go to the Baltimore Orioles. But the good news is about him is he still claims Auburn. He's still an Auburn guy.
Absolutely.
He claimed him.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? He claims Auburn, so we claim him.
Yeah,
This is a look at Auburn's freshman class that signed just last year. Christian Chatterton, as we mentioned, he started off in the weekend rotation, went to midweek. Now he's the Sunday guy, the game 3 guy. Chase Fralick, who's been a starting catcher pretty much all year, true freshman. Demarion Terrell, a.k.a. Bub Terrell, true freshman, playing third base. Auburn's shortstop, second baseman, depending on, if Guevara or Eric Snow or whoever's going to be out there. Chris Rembert, true freshman. Jackson Sanders hasn't got to pitch a lot this year, but he's pitched a pretty good bit, has a pretty good fastball out of Valley, Alabama, true freshman. And then the other one that really stands out is Andreas Alvarez. He started a couple midweek games this year for Auburn. So those are all true freshmen, and those are all contributing to what has been a pretty solid team this year.
Absolutely. And you got to credit Butch and the staff for assembling it, because to their credit, no one was expecting Auburn to have the season like we had. So we definitely exceeded expectations. And we did have a down year last year. So it's nice to have a bounce back year like this season.
I know a lot of people were, doom and gloom because, last year was the down year. Auburn didn't even make the SEC tournament last year.
Right.
But even the year before that, the way that the year ended, Auburn had a pretty good regular season, and then they went 0 in their own regional. They lost to Penn and Southern Miss, the Mustard Buzzards, as I've been alerted that they were called in Southern Mississippi. The Mustard Buzzards took Auburn out 2 years ago, so you have that, and then you go into the year that Auburn had last year. A lot of doom and gloom and fire Butch Thompson. I'm like, no. that man, and that's why I'm kind of nervous right now, because Mississippi State still has an opening. I'm like, don't take him. I know it's tempting. I know the history, but do not take him.
Right.
You've got him, Gabe Gross, Everett Tiefer doing a pretty good job managing everything. If you're just now tuning into the show, Auburn baseball supposed to start their run to the SEC tournament on Wednesday at 8 p.m. That, of course, has been hindered by the rain in Hoover. They were supposed to play the winner of Texas A&M, Mississippi State. That game's supposed to be starting about 30 minutes from now. However, thunderstorms in the Birmingham area have already wiped that out, and they're going to play on Wednesday. So it could be a late game Wednesday night, could be Thursday at the time of us doing this show live. We don't really know, but we've just been talking about the true freshmen that have come in and have done wonders for this Auburn team. Just how well that they've really turned things around. Number 6 in the D1 baseball, field of 64, number 6 seed, number 2 in the RPI, still one of 3 teams that have 15 wins over quad 1 teams. So Yep, I think they'll be okay. I mean, I still think they need to win one game just to solidify a top 8 seed, but I mean, I think they're going to be fine regardless of how things shake out. But we're welcome to your comments as well. You can be a part of the show by posting your comments on our live stream. We'll be sure to read them. So if you have any questions, concerns, anything you'd like for us to discuss on the show today, we will be happy to talk about that. Just go over to our comments live and send us a comment or a question. You can also check out our new website, vocfb.com. On our new site, you can check out our full show schedule, catch up on the latest college football news, share your thoughts on Auburn football or just college football in general by checking out the forums. All of that at voiceofcollegefootball.com. And it is, of course, the voice of college football, so we can't go without talking about football. Had a pretty good run last week talking about recruiting. We talked about running backs, wide receivers, so many good things, and not a lot of movement this week. I mean, we had some official visitors come in. Commitment dates are starting to be filed as well. We talked about Cedarian Morgan committing in July. Our thoughts about what's going on with that. We've got a couple more that will commit before we start our next show. But the biggest headline, I think, in the terms of Auburn fans and what has them, kind of nervous is comments that Hugh Freeze made last week during the little golf outing thing that they have. I've
Regions Classic.
The little golf thing they have in Birmingham. Hugh Freeze was there, got to talk to the guys at the next round. That's Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor, their show that they have going on. And he said good things. He really did, but it was something at the very beginning of what he said that really irked Auburn fans. And we're going to play that clip right now. And we'll see if you can point out exactly what he said that may have raised some eyebrows.
Going into this season, does it feel a little bit different? Do you feel like, hey, I've got to win X amount of games?
I'm not a fool. I think we've got to go to a bowl game, and I think our administration understands. Look, I inherited a program that didn't have a top 25 recruiting class for 4 years. You're not going to win in this league. We've had now 2 full recruiting classes, both top 10. I think one more than your roster looks complete, but I'm still not naive. And we should have won some games last year that we could have won some games. I shouldn't say we should. We could have won some games last year. And we've got to find a way to make sure we're excellent in those areas that cost us those, that put us in a position to be at least bowl eligible, if not more. And I see no reason why we shouldn't do that. And I think that's an expectation that our people should expect. And I don't sit around feeling like that puts a lot of pressure on me. Look, I'm blessed. And I'm blessed to be at one of the greatest universities, to live in one of the greatest towns, to work for some of the greatest people. And our administration's awesome. My family, I have all 3 daughters there and grandkids. So, whatever the outcome of all of that is, that will be okay. Obviously, I'm a competitor, and I want to deliver to the Auburn people, and it's time for us to start doing that.
So that was Hugh Freeze on the next round. Last Friday, I believe, is when that was recorded. And Skye, we were talking about this before we went live. He said a lot of really good things, a lot of things that were pretty valuable, a lot of things that were very matter of fact. He's self-aware of what he needs to do. But I think the thing that really got under the skin of Auburn fans was he said, I'm no fool. I think we need to go to a bowl game.
Right.
And
right.
It took me a while to listen to the whole thing to really get the firm grasp of what he was saying because, I empathize with Auburn fans there because I was like, are you serious? Did he really just say that?
Right.
And then after I heard it, probably 3 or 4 times, I was like, okay, that's some really good stuff that he said. It had a lot of substance. Why did he start it off like that? Like, it's just so, that's something as an Auburn fan who has, had 4 straight seasons of 7 losses. And you get into year 3 and, I don't think it's a fair assessment to say he's on the hot seat yet.
Right.
A lot of people are already waiting to put on, and I'm like, guys, if that's the case, then every Auburn coach has been on the hot seat ever since they signed the contract.
Yeah.
And Hugh Freeze has done a lot of good things outside. Do I think he needs to execute more on the field? Do I think he doesn't need to waste talent? Yeah, I agree. But the way he started off as, I think we need to go to a bowl game. Just your first thoughts listening to that clip. What went through your mind?
Yeah. I thought that he could probably use a little PR coaching as far as and like and you want Coach Freeze to say what he wants, of course, but like, and I understand the point he was trying to make, but it came across to a fan base that expects their team to try and to compete for championships year in and year out, no matter the recent history. Auburn fans want our guys. Well, we're going to try to win the SEC. We're going to try to go to Atlanta. We're going to try to go to the playoff. But so it initially, for him to start off the conversation with that, it made a lot of people tune out to the rest of the good things he had to say, because I think what he had to say kind of explained. I think Hugh was coming from a place that we can do no worse than go to a bowl game. Like, I know that's the least, we got to do is go to a bowl game. But I believe they want to go to the playoffs, and they're going to be coaching their guys to go to the playoff. But at the same time, one of the things is taking it one game at a time. And I know that's preached extensively, because as soon as you start thinking about the future, and it can derail your season. But good things can happen if you just focus on one game at a time, et cetera. But at the same time, you got your coach who has to appease the fan base by, I don't know, like, he didn't necessarily have to give that interview to the next round, but he did. So if he is going to give interviews like that, then I don't think there's anything wrong with having someone who's an expert in the field of public relations, like giving them a little coaching. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think Hugh had every good intention to verbalize, positive things. He had no intention of saying something that was going to piss off Auburn fans, I can assure you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he don't think he did anything wrong. So that's why he could use a little coaching. And I think he's the kind of human being that would be I think he would be receptive to that, because he's a man of faith, and I don't know. So that's what I think. That's my initial thoughts. And I can see why a lot of Auburn fans got so mad.
Yeah, I can too. But what he said, after that is nothing that another Auburn fan hasn't said before. We could spend 2 hours on Tigers Live talking about Brian Harsin and what.
Right, we already know. Yeah,
and he brought up, we had 4 straight classes before Hugh Freeze got there that weren't even in the top 25.
Right, and that's not true.
We have 2 top 10 classes right now. We need another third one. We need a third one before we can compete. Again, nothing wrong with that. That's something that everyone else has said. Of course, you have the Auburn fans that want to win now and they demand a championship, which is good, but you also have the realistic out there like, hey, we were in a bad spot. We thought things were bad under Malzahn. I didn't even scratch the surface of what they could have been. And we've got to get it back up to where we need to be. And it's looking at it right now, Auburn has the number 33 ranked class, and I expect that to go up a lot as the summer goes on, because you already have the top players in the state of Alabama have scheduled visits. You've got one with Zadarian Morgan, Anthony Jones, the number 2 player. He's already scheduled a visit. Pretty much everybody in the top 10 has scheduled a visit. You've got some really good 4- and 5-star talent that have scheduled visits, some that are starting to trend upward. So you feel like that 33s could easily get up to a number 10 beyond that. Probably have to do a little extra recruiting with Shadarius Tootle because On3 came out earlier this week and said that he could possibly flip to Georgia. But other than that, I mean, it's everything he said was true. He talked about the recruiting class, and that's definitely going to get better. And a lot of those guys that he has recruited are already on the field right now.
Yeah. I think it's harder for him to get that. It appears more difficult for Hugh to get that third class as good as the last 2, the previous 2 that were top 10, because he was selling a future, so to speak, and they haven't seen the proof of concept. So but he was selling them on what could be, and now people have seen a little bit of it, and quite frankly, they haven't been impressed. So this is really a make or break season for Hugh Freeze's reputation as an offensive mastermind.
And, you go back, I mean, you look at some of the receiver targets that Auburn has right now, and a lot of them, they like the family atmosphere. They like the indoor facility for sure. That the football only facility, they definitely love that. They love the community that Auburn has. They love the Auburn fan base. But a lot of them, more often than not, if they're not ready to commit just yet, if they're like, okay, I'll probably commit sometime after the high school football season, or I could probably commit sometime during the high school football season, they all want to say, I want to see how Cam Coleman works in this offense. I want to see how often they get the ball to the tight end. How often are they going to hand the ball off? And on the defensive back side, too, they say, how are they going to develop me? Because you've got Crime Dog, you have good defensive backs coaches. How are they going to develop me? What can they do differently than what LSU can do? What are they going to do differently than Georgia, Alabama? We've got to worry about Texas a little bit more now that they're in the SEC and they're starting to come in. Texas A&M's really gotten into the state of Alabama as well. Almost took Cam Coleman before Auburn finally got there at the end. And that's another thing about Hugh Freeze too. He talks about the 2 top 10 classes. That first class almost wasn't a top 10 class. It was nowhere near top 10 until he got there. Flipped Cam Coleman. He flipped Sylvester Smith. He flipped several at Keldrick Falk from Florida State. Flipped them and ultimately got up to a top 10 class. So,
Keldrick Falk was in his first Auburn class, which he only had a couple weeks to recruit for. So he's had 3 classes, technically, but one of the classes he was only head coach for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, and he flipped Connor Lew. He flipped Kayan Lee from Connor Lew from Miami to Auburn, Kayan Lee from Ohio State to Auburn, and Keldrick Falk from FSU to Auburn. And those 3 players right there, they've played a lot of downs of football for Auburn.
Yes, they have.
So, but I thought that was, I think that class was like, I could be wrong, Taylor, but I thought it was like 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think it was a top 20 class. I apologize. It was a top 20, and then the last 2. It's hard for me to believe that he's had 3 classes. It just doesn't seem he's been there that long. I completely forget about him having 3. But yeah, I mean, I can remember. I didn't have anything to do one Saturday, and I was like, well, let's go to Atlanta and just watch the Georgia State Championships. And Kayan Lee, I watched him play with Cedar Grove High School, and he was still an Ohio State commit. Like they was talking, we could flip him. Auburn could flip him. Right. And then, 2 weeks later, he's an Auburn Tiger. So it's very, very quick how all that worked. But, and then another thing he pointed out too, that was very, self-aware, matter of fact. is that we could have won. He said we should have won, which of course, in Auburn fans, we should have won.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah.
5, just without even thinking straight. I can think of 5 that we should have won. But he said we could have won. And, he said that comment, and I was scrolling through TikTok, I think last night before bed, and one of the videos that came up on my For You page was Auburn's up by 12 on Oklahoma in the fourth quarter. They should win this one. Auburn's up 17-3 against Missouri. We should win that one. And then it wasn't this past year, but it was 2 years ago. It was Auburn's up. It's 4th and 31. They've got this in the bag. It's just
brutal.
That was so close. But he did, bring up in those comments, there were some games that we could have won. We understand that the Auburn fan base expects us to win those games, no matter who they are. But when you have a shot to beat Oklahoma and basically put them out of their misery, early, Missouri, they got that game, even though Missouri had an incredible year last year, that game, knowing what it was in the third quarter, should have never gotten that way. Texas A&M was one that we were like, that game could go either way, but they closed it out. And it's just brutal. But he's, he did also point that out too, that we have games that we could have won. And those are games
Taylor,
in that situation we should get the chance to win in year 3.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing about it, the fan base don't want to hear coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
I think I think most of the fan base is logical and realize that he's right. Like, he's right. After 4 consecutive losing seasons, like, we need to at least have a winning season and go to a bowl game. That should be the expectation, Taylor.
Yeah.
Whatever the record is, so be it. Whether it's 7-5 or 8-4 or 9-3 or 10-2 or 11-1 or 12-0, whatever the case is. Because Auburn is one of those programs that that does have magic behind its name and can have a magical season out of the blue. They've done that many a times before, so it wouldn't surprise me if Auburn had a special year this year. It also wouldn't surprise me if Auburn struggles and goes 6-6. So
it's all going to hinge on a lot of things. But I'll ask you, while we're on this topic, and of course the expectation is go to a bowl game. But what is the win total that you would consider being okay? We had a pretty good year. Where's that line that you draw?
Yeah. Again, I go back to look at the program, the last 4 years, 4 losing seasons. So yes, I want to go to the playoff. Of course I do as a fan. I want to, go to the playoff. But if you take into consideration the recent history of the program, then, I'm thinking, I know fans are going to get mad, but I'm thinking you can do no worse than 7-5. But there's going to be a lot of fans that expect 8 wins. If I'm not mistaken, the over and under is 7.5.
Yeah.
So that's where it's at then, 7.5. I don't think Auburn has hit the over in the last few years, just to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I do feel like I'm not sure why Auburn is at 7.5. based upon their.
I just feel like it's not an overreaction, not an underreaction, but a safe bet.
Yeah,
Like
but here's the
7
thing.
is-
Here's the thing, Taylor. I like Hugh Freeze's approach this year, of kind of talking down expectations and so to speak, because last year he did say how much better the roster, how much better the camaraderie, the chemistry, how much better this, how much better that, and kind of in the preseason, it's like, wait a second, we're about to kick some butt here, and
Yeah.
and it wasn't that. So this year, I would rather play down expectations and have a fantastic year than talk my. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I
I
think
would.
Spurrier was kind of good at that. I don't know. There was a few coaches out there. Lou Holtz, I believe he was good at talking. He wouldn't make a big deal about his team among the media.
I would rather hear him talk down about the expectations where he's like, yeah, we know we need to go to a bowl game. I would rather hear that than the twidiots or things that are going on outside that are just, completely changing, everything about Auburn. And I would rather hear that than to hear about how good of a week we had at practice. And just, I don't know what happened. We had a good week of practice. That's the only thing I got.
Right.
So we're talking about the Hugh Freeze comments that kind of took everybody by storm over the weekend with his interview on the next round, where he like we mentioned, said a lot of really good things, but it was at the very beginning that really rubbed Auburn fans the wrong way, where he said, I'm no fool, I think we need to go to a bowl game. And they kind of sold that as, well, that's the expectation for Hugh Freeze, let's just get to 6 wins. But that's not necessarily what he was saying. It was basically, he's self-aware. He knows that Auburn fans, deserve, they want a lot more. He's very aware of that. Even tried to talk up Auburn University a little bit. He said, I've got my family here. All my daughters are here. My grandkids are here. I'm in a great school. I'm in a great town. Everybody loves to hear that about Auburn. I feel like I'm that way about Auburn every time I, cross into the Auburn city limits. I think the exact same thing. This is, one of the greatest towns, not only in the state of Alabama, but in the entire world. So
Absolutely.
Trying to hype it up a little bit, but just kind of came off a little off with some Auburn fans. And hopefully we broke it down enough to where, we, hopefully we at least made it seem like we knew what Hugh Freeze was saying and try to give him a chance to really, read between the lines as to what he was saying.
Yeah, I give him the benefit of the doubt. I believe he was saying, hey, guys, the worst we can do this year is go to a bowl game. Like, we can do no worse than that. But I don't necessarily think – I know a lot of fans think it came across as he was setting the bar really, really, really low. And I don't think that was the case. So I think, if you listen to everything he said, he was accountable. He was like, we got to start, there was games that Auburn should have won or could have won, essentially. And he's got to be the coach that wins those games now, not comes close or and he's got the pieces on offense out wide and on paper at quarterback, and really the whole quarterback room between the starter, Jackson Arnold, the 5-star backup in Deuce Knight, Ashton Daniels, a P4 starter at Stanford the past couple of years, and he's probably, third, but we got 3 quality quarterbacks, and I think we've got a really good quarterback. I don't know if I say really good quarterback room, but I would say good quarterback room, because it's kind of, it's unproven really.
It has a lot of potential. There's a lot of reason to believe that it could be one of the best in the SEC, but Auburn's got to show it. You got Jackson Arnold that had, Gatorade Player of the Year. He was a 5-star coming out of high school. He was in that same class with Kate Klubnik and Arch Manning. So, of course, that was a pretty good recruiting class. But, offensive line play, injuries, losing some trust, whatever the case may be, he didn't get a chance to prove himself at Oklahoma. He's got a chance to do it now. And if he doesn't, Deuce Knight is, also on the table. And if for some reason that doesn't work out either, you have a pretty good option in your pocket with Ashton Daniels.
Absolutely.
So the potential is there. And I think that's probably another reason why Auburn fans probably didn't like we got to go to a bowl game, because we've got way too much talent on the field for 6-6 to be the bar.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I understand that, well, if my head coach thinks we're only going to get 6 or 7 wins, then maybe I should dial it back a little bit, which I think is another point that he was trying to make.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with letting the fan base know. I mean, and to Hugh's credit, in his defense, so to speak, is he did say it was going to take 3 full recruiting classes. He wasn't talking about the one where he had 2 or 3 weeks to recruit it.
Yeah.
First. So, and he's had 2 of those since that one, basically, and both of those were top 10. And this will be the 3rd one, 2026. Yes. That you said is ranked number 33 right now.
33 right now, yeah. But
it was ranked number 1 early.
Yeah, very, very early. I think even before the 2025 cycle ended, it was like last summer. It was number 1 or top 5 or something like that. So yeah, a lot's changed since then. But the cycle's about to heat up. So if you're listening to that and the red lights are going off, hey, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I've been impressed with some of these guys that have made visits, scheduled visits to Auburn. I mean, there was news that one of the top offensive linemen in the country just planned a visit to Auburn. Either the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 offensive tackle in the country.
Right, yeah, and he's one that's going to set his commitment pretty soon too. That's
really?
Jared Smith. A chance that we could have 2 Jared Smiths in back-to-back recruiting classes. You've got him, and I'm just taking a look at like some of the ones that are coming up in June. Offensive lineman Jelaine Miller, Cedarian Morgan, Evan Jacobson, which is the tight end, defensive end Aiden Harris, Andrew Harris, another defensive end. All those coming on June the 13th. So we got a couple more weeks until we see them come to town. But next week's going to be pretty busy. We'll see a few more coming in as well. And then, of course, you got Big Cat Weekend coming up. I believe it's the end of July sometime. I don't know if it's the last weekend in July or that 3rd weekend in July. But
you're going to be surprised, Taylor. They've already had Big Cat Weekend, and they changed. I don't know why the recruiting calendar. I think the reason they did it, and it confused me, because of the NCAA and the recruiting calendar didn't allow them to do it the same weekend that they were doing it previously. I think is my understanding. So they had to move it up super early. And I think they had Big Cat Weekend in April, if I'm not mistaken.
I feel like now that you say that, I do feel like that's true. It wasn't like it was around it wasn't 8-day weekend, but it was around 8-day weekend. I feel like I remember that being the case. But that's a shame though, because like
it is. That's a staple of the program.
Yeah, because like you get to look at the guest list and you're like, oh, these guys are coming to Auburn. But the thing that always got me is that Alabama's was usually the same weekend. Tennessee's was usually the same weekend. I think Georgia was somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And you would see, the news come out. This 4-star offensive lineman or this, 5-star receiver was supposed to be at Georgia for their little shindig, but he's going to come to Auburn instead. And they were just like, yeah. That was, and it also helps too that it happened in the summer too, when there's, not really a lot going on. I mean, you read the Phil Steele magazines and, SEC media days usually happen a week or two before that. So you have like a little bit of talk to go after, but yeah, that's a shame that no more big weekend in the summer. Officially.
Well, at least this summer. This summer, hopefully they're able to go back to the old way next year, because it definitely. I think you need the swimming pool involved.
Yes.
You got all these cool things that makes Auburn awesome, and the indoor practice facility. I remember the wide receivers that we were recruiting: Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman. They were all racing each other during Big Cat Weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like they're building relationships before they even become Auburn Tigers.
Right, but yeah, that's the stuff that happens during the summer and the pool time. That was one of the biggest recruiting flips of the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn was Perry Thompson when he did it outside at the pool and announced it on social media, and then guys were doing flips in the pool. And that was all over social media. So, Big Cat Weekend. Doing it in early spring is not.
It's weird because you feel like the season just ended, because the playoff national championship game is like middle of January now, so you feel like the season just ended.
Yeah,
and basketball season's pretty hot at that time. You hope it's hot at that time. It was hot for us at that time too. So you're just like, that's cool, but our focus isn't directly on recruiting at this time. It's watching Janiah Broome and Tahad and Miles Kelly drain threes and all this fun stuff. But hopefully that does change some. But in the meantime, a lot of big recruits will be visiting over the months of June and July. We'll of course be talking about that every week here on the show, which again, hopefully consistently will be back on Mondays at 7 p.m. A lot of weird things going on in the school year, and T-ball games and all that have caused us to shift things time or two. But hopefully we'll be back on Mondays at 7 starting next week.
Sounds great. Taylor, you brought up a name that Tahad Pettiford. He's got a big decision coming up. And,
coming up. Let's see. I'm trying to think if we'll have another show before that decision, which he could make it before then, of course. But he had a pretty good day at the NBA Combine, or the NBA Draft Combine. Scored over 20 points in the 5-on-5 game. His measurements are pretty good. Things are not, because he of course, like Bruce Pearl has said this, Tahad Pettiford has said this. He needs to get a first round
grade, right?
In every mock draft that we've seen since the NBA draft lottery was revealed, since the combine, he's making progress, but he's still about 6 or 7 spots shy from where he needs to be, to where we really need to be worried.
Right. And that's music to Auburn fans' ears.
Yes, it is.
Because he's one of the best college basketball players in the country. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so. And he was a bench player.
Exactly.
He had numbers that would really rival many point guards, and he was on the bench for most of them.
Right, for a freshman, for a brand new player. So him being our I think the offense is going to be built around him, to be quite honest with you, next season. And it should be, because he's a superstar.
And you've got a lot more time.
And what's cool is I think we as Auburn fans, we're going to witness him being a superstar. And I think he will go in the lottery after being a superstar at Auburn. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that is, because you've got a lot more size around him, which Bruce Pearl, also said this too, which I don't think it was highly publicized, as what Hugh Freeze said, but he said, it's too early to tell what kind of team we're going to have next year. And that's very true because no starter is coming back. The only key contributor you have that could be coming back, quote unquote, is Tahad Pettiford. A lot of things hinging on that. Bruce Pearl still is looking for a big man, but he feels like he's got an international guy, he said. And there's been, a couple that have been linked to Auburn. I don't know which one that's going to be yet, but he feels like he's going to get a big guy from the international pool instead of the transfer portal. And if Tahad Pettiford decides that he's going to go to the NBA, then the transfer portal is kind of getting shallow, so you kind of feel like you just have to roll with what you got. And I think Kagan Magwood is the guard that's coming in. I think there's maybe another one, the other one that's coming in from Lincoln Memorial that could be a guard position too, but I think he's more trending toward a 3 or a 4. But yeah, Tahad Pettiford, things are looking up for him, but I think they're not looking up far enough to where we really need to be worried right now. But again, things could change. But yeah, in the next, I think it's May 28th, so it'll be a week and a day from now. Next Wednesday is when we'll know. So we will have another show by then. Hopefully we have some good news to report from Tahad Pettiford about him coming in. And I'll ask you, I don't know how often you're on the lovely social media platform Facebook, but one of the things that I have noticed a lot is there'll be these quote unquote news sites or news pages that come out, and it's all AI generated.
It's fake news stories.
Yes, and it really
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, Taylor. And it's a crime against humanity because all of the fans that don't listen to podcasts, engage.
Yeah, they do.
The on the cusp fans. We are fanatics. There's a large portion of people that are fanatics, and then there's a large portion of people that do it on the background, that like sports on the background. If you got it on, they'll watch it, but they're not turning to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's those people that eat that stuff up and engage with it and believe it, and it's a shame. It really is.
And they just put out some of the most preposterous stuff. It just makes me look at it. So not only do I think it's weird, but I also look at the people on my friends list that actually share it or comment on it. I'm like, come on, you can't believe this. I think one of them, probably the craziest one I saw, was he didn't want to share this, but Nick Saban saved 20 orphans, and he's wearing an Alabama pullover as he's doing it. I'm not to say that Nick Saban wouldn't do that, but I feel like more people would be, more people would be picking it up.
Right, absolutely.
But the reason I brought that up, and it's one that he used to write with us at the Auburn Wire, but now he's taken over an editor job at another site within our College Wires network. But we'll do that. If we see one, we'll screenshot it and send it to one another.
I gotcha.
The craziest one I saw, I think it was over the weekend. It was a picture of Tahad Pettiford, and the caption on the picture below says, "Bruce Pearl guarantees starting job to Pettiford if he returns." And the whole time I'm thinking, you don't say.
Right.
You do not say. I would hope Tahad Pettiford gets a starting job.
That's hilarious.
Oh, so yeah, I've seen that, and I've also seen that. Can you believe that Chad Baker Mazzara turned down a $26 million NIL deal to come back to Auburn for his junior year? I'm like, there was a quarterback. I think he's playing in the FCS now, Jalen Rashada.
Yeah.
Supposedly turned down wanted $10 million from Florida, and Florida was like, no. So $26 million for basketball is just not going to happen. I think the other crazy one I saw, and it was one of those. It's if you have seen content on this page, then you'll basically the same thing but for another school. I saw that Will Howard, who just led the Ohio State Buckeyes to a national championship, who is now in the NFL, has decommitted from Ohio State and has signed with Auburn, Florida, and Clemson.
Oh,
Yeah. So AI stuff is just pretty interesting. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up too because it was it was true, but they tried to make it out like, oh, Bruce Pearl like went to his apartment and like got down on his knees and said, "I'll give you a starting job if you come back to Hod." And I'm like,
right.
I think that's locked up, guys.
Right.
There's no doubt about that one. But yeah, we may have a lot to talk about in next week's show because of the Tahad Pettiford decision. The last mock draft we saw too, and I don't know if it had anything to do with his combine performance or if it's just, how it goes or if it's just a bunch of nonsense until the draft actually happens. This, mock draft's going to be going on for the next month and a half because I think the draft's going to be the last week in June. I think that's about right, or somewhere around there. So I mean, mock drafts are going to be coming left and right, just like we see with the NFL mock drafts. I mean, they're going to be one thing here, and one of the mock guys is going to have a dream that so and so is going to be number one overall, or so and so is going to trade up, or whatever the deal may be. But Janai Broome went from number 37 in ESPN's mock draft to number 45, going to the Bulls, which again, second round really doesn't matter all that much.
Right.
Where do you see Janai Broome fitting in the NBA? Which team, when you like look at him in an NBA uniform, just like, yeah, that's the one. That's where he's going to go.
I'm not sure. I see him in a backup role. And he might play G League even, which is a possibility. And quite honestly, it's possible that he ends up having to go overseas because I do think his performance at the NBA draft camp and whatnot, I don't think it was. I think it left a lot to be desired.
Yeah,
so he didn't do himself any favors. So I think that's why you saw the little bit of a drop. But so hopefully he makes. My point is, hopefully he makes a squad. And I wouldn't bet against Janai Broome because look, there's been a ton of college guys who are really good in the college game that maybe their game didn't translate to the NBA as some is not as well as others, So, but I don't know. I think I can see a team like he's originally from Plant City, Florida, so I could see a team like Orlando Magic or the Heat or a Florida team. Him playing with a team like that.
And I'm not sure what where the Spurs are in the draft, or if they're in need of a forward or anybody capable of what Janai Broome does. But I don't know what it is, but I see him in a Spurs uniform.
Okay.
I just feel like he kind of fits that role of just blue collar, go to work, do your deal, and get off the court. But the Chicago Bulls are the team in the latest ESPN mock draft anyway that says that that's where he's going to go in the second round, pick number 45, I believe it was, for Janai Broome. And on the other end of that, Cooper Flagg, you think he's still going to be the number one overall?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt.
I kind of feel like the NBA kind of did the now Dallas Mavericks some favor since they took Luka away. And it still didn't even matter. I mean, the Lakers are not even playing for the conference finals, so it really didn't even matter.
Right.
They were still,
Luka's a superstar. Luka's a superstar, but that's crazy how the the controversy is that the Dallas Mavericks had 1% chance to earn the little ball.
Yeah.
in the raffle, so to speak.
Whoa.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
we lost him there for a second.
But yeah, they had a 1% chance in the raffle, and so that's the controversy. A lot of fans thinks it believes it to be rigged, and Dallas ends up with the number 1 overall NBA draft pick, and so essentially they're going to pick Cooper Flagg. So basically, they traded Luka Doncic to the Lakers, and in return, they get another possible star in the making in Cooper Flagg.
So yeah, it goes to show you that everything works out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Which it's still early on, but everything works out the way it's supposed to, kids. So do not give up on your dreams. Do not give up on anything. And if anything, don't give up on the Auburn Tigers, no matter what Hugh Freeze says or how he made it up to be and all that. But another good show this week. Talk a little bit about Auburn baseball. And if you're just now tuning in or you're looking through the TV guide, wondering where the heck Auburn baseball is, they were supposed to start on Wednesday at 8 p.m. at Hoover in the SEC tournament to open up against either Mississippi State or Texas A&M. However, it's Hoover week, so of course some rain and thunderstorms are going to happen. That's already altered the schedule. Texas A&M and Mississippi State will play on Wednesday instead of Tuesday night. And at the time that we're doing this show, not sure when that is going to be. I'm sure they're probably still working that out at the SEC, and then they're going to figure out how to get them in to where Auburn can play. So it could be Thursday for the Tigers play. We're not really sure, but they're in a pretty good standing right now in the RPI at number 2. They're projected to be the number 6 seed in the Division I baseball field of 64 projections. So if that holds up and they have a solid tournament over the week at Hoover, they'll be hosting the regionals for – I've got to go back and see. But, I mean, they've hosted a regional. It's been a pretty consistent thing. And could be the first time ever they host a super regionals. That's pretty exciting. Kind of talked about the Hugh Freeze comments that shook the Auburn nation. And we tried to make sense of it. Hopefully we did, or everything we said could, Hugh Freeze is like, no, I didn't mean it like that, whatever. But we are the latest ones to talk about it. Kind of sad that we didn't get to talk about it on Monday when it was still fresh. But you know what? It's Tuesday. We still talked about it. And hopefully that will, the downplaying of it will hopefully help the expectations of Auburn fans. Then we, ended with some Todd Pettiford talk, and if he could come back to Auburn, if he could go to the NBA, we're not really sure. Hopefully when we get back on the air next week, we'll have some good news to report on that front. Maybe some commitments as well, some other commitment dates to watch for. A lot of good things going on. But again, Skye Underwood, thanks for joining us again.
Yes, sir.
We'll see if we can make this a permanent thing to where Auburn fans can come check us out every Monday at 7 right here on YouTube. And if they can't check us out live, they can also check us out on Spotify and Apple Playlists. Before we head out, Skye, where can Auburn fans find you so they can check out your awesome content at Power of Dixieland?
Yeah, at Power of Dixieland or at Skye Underwood on Twitter, what is now known as X.
Yeah, you can definitely check him out there. Then, of course, you can check us out at the VOCFB, where you can see all when Auburn Tigers Live is going to go on, which, hopefully Monday at 7, we'll go back to our normal slot. And you can also check out the other shows that we have. I know it's about to be summertime and college sports about to wind down for the year. Just sometimes you get an itch for college football. You want to know what's going on in the SEC. A majority of SEC teams have a show on the Voice of College Football Network. So if you kind of want to get some inside scoop from rival camps, be sure to check us out on that as well. But Skye, anything else before we get on back to our lives for this week?
No. Everybody have a fantastic rest of the week. And wiggle.
Yeah, wiggle, everybody. And we will check you back here next Monday at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube and the Voice of College Football Network. And of course, we're available on demand, also on YouTube if you can't watch the show live, Spotify and Apple playlists or Apple Podcasts as well. And if you'd like to be a part of our show next week, you can go to our YouTube channel, leave a comment, and we will for sure read that as we go on. But until next week, have a good week, everybody, and War Eagle.